Welcome to the Run for God Run Club, where you will find God in a runner's space.
Welcome to the Run for God Run Club. This is your one stop each week to be motivated and inspired to get off the couch and onto the running trail, where you can in turn inspire others to do the same. Let's learn, laugh, and leap into running together, giving God the glory for what we are able to do in His name. Amen. I am your running host, Dean Thompson. Hills, we run them. We walk them, but not many of us like them. We're going to share a story about climbing life's hills, and then I'm going to talk about mind over matter in Dean's thoughts. And joining me for all of that and much, much more is Run for God founder Mitchell Hollis.
How's your week been, Dean?
Hot.
Yeah, it is.
Man, it's been hot.
Yeah,
Muggy. Yeah.
It really wasn't that hot this morning.
Yeah.
But the humidity, I feel like it was 100%. I mean, you sweat when you walk outside, just standing out there.
Yeah, you just feel damp all the time.
Yeah. So what about hills? Are you a fan of hills?
I'm not a fan of hills. I don't like hills. I like flat and fast. Mm-hmm. That's what I like. But the
weird thing is, I like walking hills, but I don't like running hills.
Isn't that weird?
It's weird. But I enjoy, because I enjoy the burn.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, running hills is...
Yeah.
I guess that hurts too bad.
It just hurts when your lungs feel like they're going to explode. And we'll talk a lot about hills today in a lot of different ways.
So did you go see any fireworks? We're 2 days removed from the 4th as of the time we're recording this.
We were supposed to have our big fireworks in downtown Cohutta and got rained out.
Yeah.
I mean, it got ugly.
So y'all were supposed to do them on Saturday, though.
Yes, we were going to do them on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then my son and his wife, they were going to have some fireworks at their house. And so I thought, well, we'll go do that. And then we just didn't make it over there. Yeah. So no fireworks this year.
We wound up staying in. We were going on 4th of July down to the Brookers for their fireworks. But we were out in the sun all day long at a cookout. And we all got back here and we were like, let's just stay. So, hey, before we get started, let's talk about this week's sponsor. Gathered Goods is a special kind of produce market. It only happens a handful of times a year, ran by Casey Carpenter, a household name here in Dalton. They provide the freshest produce shipped in just days before the sale, sometimes even the day of. The variety of goods they bring is just unreal. It really is a great organization, so be on the lookout for the next produce run by Gathered Goods. It is worth every penny. And I don't think they've done that this year yet, have they?
I haven't seen it.
Of course, I guess we're just now getting into the heart of the growing season.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be firing up here in the next few weeks or so.
I would think so. That's always a fun thing to participate in.
You always know it's coming with Casey's posts. I mean, he runs around and does all these videos, crazy videos, but yeah, Casey missed his calling in marketing.
Yes. Yeah. But he's got man, when he gets people out, he gets people out.
He does.
Man,
he really does.
The lines.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about our Facebook post from last week. It comes from Lynn Carroll McDonald. She said, had fallen behind a little on the 10K training as part of the Couch to Marathon with life being super busy. Wasn't worried about catching up because I wasn't that many runs off. Then worked through a curveball to that plan and was a super stressful week last week. One of those where I tried to go out for a run, but quit a mile in because mentally I just wasn't in it. Promised myself at the end of last week that I'd pick back up this week. So I got out there this evening. Still 92 with feels like 105 at 7 p.m. this evening. So I decided I'd try to keep my easy run within zone 2 with walking and running intervals. Got it done and glad I got out there.
Good outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you don't have those days. But too many times people will think they've messed up and they just, before you know it, they're taking 2 days off, 3 days off, 4 days off, and
they give up.
They think it's a compounding thing. And all you got to do is get back out there.
That's it.
Whether you're walking or running, whatever it is, it could be anything. I mean, this really applies to anything we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we stub our toe and we get off track. But the best thing to do is just get back on the bike. When your kids fall off a bike when they're little, what do?
You put them back
get
on.
them back on as fast as you can.
Yep.
And that's the best way to handle so many things in life.
Yeah. And she did a really good job because she, not only was she falling behind and all, but then she went out there, tried it, and then failed, basically, is what she did. And she still, so just don't give up after one try either, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things, this reminds me, we were talking about our church. Our church sets up this big thing for 4th of July. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
We have all these games. Our pastor is uber creative. He has these games that are just unbelievable. And anyway, we set all this stuff up. We got there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, set all this. I mean, it took hours and hours of work. And then the rain comes, rains it all out. And we're not going to do anything. We got a couple of kids that just happened by, right? And then, so we missed these contacts with all these kids in the community. So you could just kind of be really, the pastor he was torn up about it. He was just torn up about it. I told him, I said, I'm going to tell you like I tell my athletes, you got 2 hours. After 2 hours, you got to get over it.
Yeah.
It's just move on. And, he said, the thing is for him, he wasn't moping about what happened. He was plotting his next move. Mm-hmm. And so when things get in the way and things don't go the way you plan, plot your next move.
Sure.
Don't look at it as if, that's terrible that we missed the opportunity to meet with all those kids. It's okay. How are we going to make up for that? Right. And if we'll do that and we'll look at our running that way, I missed a run. How am I'm going to be even more creative next time. Figure out how to get it in. So
what does your pastor do with all these games? I was actually at a cookout with him. I don't even know if I told you this. It's been a month and a half. What was the last holiday? Was it
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day. How long ago was that? It was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And we were at a cookout together up near Cohutta.
Yeah.
And he was working on the game, I guess, that he had this past weekend. But these are not little small games. These are humongous, built. What does he do with all of them? I didn't even ask him.
We use them for church. We use them for these events.
So they're kind of stacked around. Where does he store? Like that
honestly,
Twix when it was a big machine.
I think his garage is full.
Wow.
Yeah. I think he just stores them at his house. Yeah. Yeah. One of them is, it's a Twix factory.
Yeah.
It sits in the back of his truck. Yeah. So it fills up the bed of his truck. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
But you push the left Twix or the right Twix button, and there's a little conveyor that starts up as soon as you push the button, and out pops whichever one you chose.
Yeah.
And it's just, most of this stuff is put together with like copy machine parts and stuff. Cause his family is in that business. He's in charge of all the maintenance for all of that stuff. And so he's got this, he's really smart when it comes to.
It was so funny because it was a long time before I realized he was the same guy. Cause we use Jarrett's business machines for our copier.
Yeah.
And I have seen him in the context of that before. And then I had met him as your pastor before. It's weird how you see people in different contexts.
Yep.
But I never realized until maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
That it was the same person. And, so that's kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, just don't give up when life throws you a curveball, figure out how you're going to adjust and hit that curveball.
So I do have a question because everything in Cohutta got canceled. The fireworks, the all day stuff. Do they reschedule that? Like, will they reschedule it for another day? Because somebody had all those fireworks.
They're talking about doing it on Labor Day, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. So they may reschedule something for Labor Day. Yeah. Yeah. I thought they might reschedule it for July 4th and actually do it on the 4th, but I guess they didn't want to try to do that. But
yeah.
It's bad for us from the church's perspective because we use that as contacts for Vacation Bible School. And by the time Labor Day gets here, Vacation Bible School will be over with. But yeah.
Well, I come by our church didn't have services last night, and Holly and I were out riding around looking at some stuff. We come by your church. What a difference in a few years. Y'all's parking lot was packed.
Yeah.
And that's, you are doing some good things up there. It was,
a few years.
I was blown away how many people were there.
A few years ago, we would only have had 3, maybe kids under 20 there. Now,
there were people everywhere. I don't know if there was something else going on.
No.
But there were a lot of people there.
No, we have more kids there than we have adults now.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. All right, we had a trivia question from last week, and this was the trivia question. There's a race in Seward, Alaska, run every 4th of July. It is another unusual race. What is it called, and why is it unusual? And this is a crazy race. It's called the Mount Marathon 5K. It's a little bit like the last one we talked about, but it's basically roughly 5K. There's a 3,000 foot climb in the first mile and a half up. 3,000 feet. So for perspective, Mount Sinai is one of the toughest hills we can climb here, and it climbs about 1,000 feet in a mile and a half. This climbs 3 times that.
Is this on a road that you can drive?
No, this is on a trail.
Okay, I was going to say, because you couldn't drive up that, I wouldn't think.
No.
The grade would be too steep.
Yeah, it would be. I mean,
Wow.
it's almost a climb, and it's interesting to watch. There's no race course. So there's basically a rock that you go up to, and you turn around, you go around that rock, and you come back down, and there's a finish line. You get there however you want to on the way up and the way down, and there are multiple paths to go.
That sounds like a mini Barclays.
Yeah. But you gotta, you just have to get to that point, turn around and come back down. It's so steep. That there's places where you can go through some trees, and there's some roots that you can grab hold of and pull on. There's also a good portion of the course is just kind of loose gravel, which sounds like, man, that's gotta be really, really tough to get up on that loose gravel. But watching people come back down is crazy. I mean, when they come back down, it's just, they're basically just kind of skipping on the way down, and then some of them are sliding down. And
so did you see any times for this? What's like the fastest time?
The winning time for this year was 44 minutes and change.
That's impressive.
The finish for women was like 52 minutes. But think about this. They say the fastest time on the way down is like 6 minutes.
Yeah, So
it's taken 30 minutes to go up. 40 minutes to go up. So 40 minutes to cover a mile and a half.
But 3,000 feet.
3,000
That's
feet.
impressive.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Pretty interesting, but, looks like a lot of fun. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot, I'd say there are probably more people that finish with blood on them than without blood on them.
For sure. I know I would.
I know I would too. Because I can't do it halfway. I can't just have fun with it. I'd have to be going after it as hard as I could go.
You catch a toe at that kind of grade, it's going to be a little while before you stop.
Yes. Yeah. And people do it on purpose. I mean, people slide down on purpose. They tell you to wear gloves. You should wear gloves.
Yeah.
Because of,
That would be a fun one.
It would be fun.
Do you struggle with motivation to exercise? Are you looking for something that will challenge you and inspire and motivate you? The Run for God Run Club is just what you need to get off the couch and on your way to a fitter, healthier you. Stop trying to get into better shape and do it with the help and inspiration of thousands of others who are going through the same challenges you face. Whether you are participating in the Couch to Marathon Challenge or any of our other challenges, or you're just looking for a daily pick-me-up to get active, join the Run for God Run Club today. You can join for as little as 27 cents a day. So what are you waiting for? Get started today at runforgod.com.
We're back. And again, if you don't join us on Thursday nights, you should. If you're just listening to this podcast for the first time, we have live events every Thursday night where I get online and I talk about whatever. And people tell me.
And it really is whatever.
Yeah. It could be anything. This week we're going to talk about your brain and how your brain works and how to hack your brain, basically. And so, interesting stuff, I think. And so join us on Thursday nights. You do have to be part of Run Club to join us on Thursday nights. And so, if you're not part of Run Club, you should be. All right. Also, don't forget that we need stories. We always need stories. We say this every week, but it's always true. We do have a few lined up at this point, but they go quick.
And the folks in Run Club moved to the front of the line.
That's right. That's right. So submit your story. All right. So I saw this new study, and it says, you know how we talk about eating late at night's bad for you? Mm-hmm. Well, this new study says that, and of course they did this in mice. So, but that the mice, the equivalent to testing mice is to test them during the day, not at night, because they're nocturnal animals. So they found that them eating during their rest period was actually increased their endurance versus eating during their busy period. So in other words, the test seems to be saying that as humans, eating at night would boost our endurance. Does that sound crazy?
Yeah. Do you believe that?
It does sound crazy. I don't know what to believe anymore.
There's a study for everything. Because I'll be honest, when I saw this, I went and Googled studies about eating at night, and they're just all over the board.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's one, I think I read one from Harvard that was kind of against what you're saying. And then there was one from, it was another university.
University of Virginia, I think.
That kind of supported what you're saying. So it's like two very reputable universities saying opposite things. So who knows?
Here's what I do know. Intermittent fasting is a thing where people eat within a certain window. Right. Now, there's a guy at our church who he has been doing this for 2 months. And so he eats from 12, I think he said from 12 to 6 every day. He does all his eating between 12 and 6. And he has lost 42 pounds in 2 months. And
yeah, but I just think that goes back. We've talked about this 100 times. The gentleman you're talking about, he's probably being much more intentional as well about what he's eating.
Sure.
So that kind of plays into, and I think me and you're on the same page here. It just doesn't seem sustainable to do that long term.
It doesn't seem it, but there are people who do it. I mean, there are people who they eat that way regularly all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do it. That's got to be hard. He says it's really hard he says that according to his body weight, he needs to get in 2,800 calories. And he says it's really hard to get in 2,800 calories in that 6-hour window.
No, it's not.
I don't think it is either, but, but he says it is. So,
you can go to some of these restaurants now and get 2,800 calories almost in a sit down.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. One meal. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens if they continue these studies in humans, which, you would think they would do as the next step. And it'll be interesting to see what it comes out to be. One of the interesting things that they found though, on this is that apparently there's a gene in your brain, or I guess you have a gene. I don't know how you delete a gene, but
I had questions on that.
I don't understand all that, but somehow you can delete a gene. And this gene, there's a gene that, regulates your circadian rhythm, which tells you not kind of your body when to sleep and that kind of thing. And, when they eliminated that gene, there was no benefit. So it made no difference if you took out the gene that regulates your circadian rhythm. That makes it even crazier, right? So
I don't know where you find these studies.
I don't know.
They're fun to talk about.
They are fun to talk about, and it's fun to read. All right, we have a story this week from Shelley Arnett, and Shelley has written a story called "Just Another Hill." Hello, greetings from East Tennessee. Want to talk and chat together for a bit? Let's go. One thing you will notice here is that there are plenty of hills, but I wasn't born here. I came from a rather flat area of Ohio, but life brought me here, and along the way I faced some mighty steep hills of life, as most of us have. If I go back to the first hill, it would be before I was even born. I was created by my maker with Turner's syndrome. It's a rare genetic condition that for me means infertility, short stature, and a host of other physical ramifications, including significant hearing loss. But God's word says he knit me together. So did he make a mistake or in some way punish me before I was even born? Absolutely not. It was just one hill of life I had to climb. Life led me to college after high school. I had a plan and a purpose, but then I failed a class and dropped out. just another hill. 30 years later, God helped me climb that hill again and get a degree. And then there was that literal hill, the one I call my driveway. Picture it, an icy morning in Tennessee on December 28th. The year was 2020. Yep, that year. For months, trying to keep up with school and work had me stressed beyond belief. I was having emotional meltdowns on almost a daily basis. The recurring thought was simply that if something did not change, I was going to break. I didn't think it would be so literal. So I rushed off to work on that frigid morning only to fall and break my hip. I had been trying to control everything, and in a minute, I couldn't control anything at all. What a steep hill it was. Fast forward to December 2022 and a trip to St. Augustine. There were 219 steps to the top of the lighthouse there, and I climbed it. As I took in the view, it was as if God said, "Look how far you've come." But he whispered, "But look around. There is so much more I have for you too." Enter Run for God. I've walked a 5K, which I didn't think I could do, and I want to stay active so I don't miss anything God has for me. There have been other hills as well, like finances and relationships, to name a couple. But I have learned that God directs me and is with me every step. He is such a faithful friend and guide. And as for hills, he knows a thing or two about that. He climbed Calvary for me and for you.
It's a great way to sign off.
Isn't that a great finish?
Yeah, it is. Great job, Shelley.
Kind of pulls it all together right there at the end.
I just love it when people are very transparent. Because there's somebody out there who needs to hear that.
Yeah.
And so many times we're and rightfully so sometimes, we're kind of personal and private. But sometimes it's good things can be personal. Kind of like our salvation. It's a very personal thing, but it should be private.
Yeah.
And sharing with others so that you can encourage others. A lot of times that's a good way to go. Just like here, she got pretty transparent, but, we are all where she is many times in our lives.
Well, and I think that her perspective here is kind of an unusual perspective for today. We're so focused on feeling sorry for ourselves these days. And I feel so bad for people who are so focused on feeling sorry for themselves. That has got to be terrible, a horrible way to wake up every day and think that every day you've got to start up a new hill, when in a lot of cases the things we call hills aren't really hills. And the other thing is that I think about is Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He's the fastest distance runner in the world, middle distance runner at least. And if he and I raced, he would beat me. Okay. He would lap me in a mile, right? He would just crush me, right? Would he feel great about that?
Right.
Well, no. He wouldn't think a thing about it. It wouldn't be a big deal to him. But now when he races the best guys in the world and he beats them, he feels great about that. Well, what's the difference? One's a hill and one's not. One is tough and one's not. Overcoming obstacles leads to us feeling better about what we accomplish.
Well, think about, we talked about hills at the outset of this podcast. Think about, and we both agreed, we don't like to run hills. But what is probably, I'm thinking back to some hill workouts. Think about how satisfying. It's probably one of the most satisfying. Probably the workouts that we dread the most are the ones that are most satisfying when we're done.
It's true.
And that should tell us something. And we have talked about this many times. We get it with sport. We get it that we dread that hill workout, but we do it and we see the benefit, and we're almost feeling good in a weird way during that hill workout. Like, oh, this hurts so bad. I don't want to do the next rep. But we get done, and we're dog dead tired. We just want to lay down right there where we're at. But there's some kind of euphoria that almost comes over you because we just did something hard.
Yeah.
And it's like we say all the time, tell your kids to do hard things. You know, you yourself do hard things. And when you're going through hard things, look at it in the same way that you look at that hill workout.
Yeah. Yeah. No matter what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whether it's running or not running.
Because in the end, you can either be better for it or you can let it crush you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a physical thing that happens. That is a decision you make in your head.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we could figure out how to what is the word I'm trying to use? The correlation. Yeah. If we could figure out how to draw that correlation in the struggles we go through in life with the struggles we go through in workouts.
If you could
need to bottle that.
Yeah, if you could somehow get a little bit of that feeling, you know, before you do it.
Right.
Problem is you can't get that feeling until after you do it. And that's the thing that we're looking for. We're looking for that feeling, but that feeling doesn't feel close enough before we do it.
Right.
So I think that's the hard thing is realizing how great it's going to be after we get done with it.
Yeah, because that hill workout, we know how good it feels because we remember the last time. But I'm sitting here thinking about hard things in my life, seasons of my life that I went through that were just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see right now I'm so much better for having gone through that.
Mm-hmm.
But why does not equate in the same way when we're walking into this next season of life that is hard? We know what's ahead of us. We can't make that connection like we can with a workout.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because workouts are so short-lived and we get that and we look at seasons of life like, well, this is never going to end when we know it is. We can look back and see that that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know why we can't connect those dots sometimes.
I don't either. Luke 2:52. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Of course, this is that famous scene in the Bible where Jesus' family is headed home as a caravan, and then suddenly his mother sits up and realizes that he's missing. I can't help but think about the movie Home Alone, where she's on the airplane and she goes, "Kevin!"
You think Mary did that? Jesus!
I don't know. Probably. But, you know, Jesus was focused on what he came to do, and he needed to be around his other teachers. And this is a mystery to me. Just honestly, right? It says in here that he increased in wisdom and stature. Well, God knows everything.
Yeah, but you know what's very, and as I was reading back through this, you know, we always like to get things in context, so we go back.
Yeah.
But the verse before this, what was Mary's reaction when the angel came to her and said, "You're going to have a baby. You're going to have a virgin birth"? It says she kept and pondered these things in her heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what Mary said again about this situation in the verse before. She kept these things and pondered them in her heart. She didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So why would we think we're going to understand this? It really goes, to me, that just, because an angel comes and says you're going to have a virgin birth. She kept these things and she pondered them in her heart. She trusted, but she didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And same thing here. We know that God is all-knowing. He's omnipotent, omniscient, all the O's. But even Mary didn't fully understand it back then.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was interesting that this was the second time that Mary kept these things and pondered them in her heart.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It was this story.
And I guess that this whole idea of him growing in wisdom and stature is it's a human thing.
The human
and
side.
It's showing his human side, and that's an important thing. So
just like he struggled with temptation.
Right. He had hills to climb too.
He had hills to climb.
Yep.
Yeah. But he was showing us the human side that this can be done.
Yeah.
For sure.
2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Well, apparently, Paul's writing this to Timothy, and apparently Timothy struggled with fear. I can only imagine how hard it was to be in ministry in that day. We think it's hard today. Mm-hmm. You know, we complain all the time about how we're persecuted, and when we look at
we're not
just history, but even just around the world and where we are today, and we realize that we don't have a lot to worry about. But Paul, of course, is explaining to Timothy that fear is not from God. And it's so easy to get caught up in fear, whatever that fear might be. And we see it in running, right? Mm-hmm. We see people who are fearful to try the workout. We see people, how many anxious people do we see the week before the 8th week of the 5K challenge? Mm-hmm. You know, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. It's fear that's telling them that, right? We have big fears. We have small fears, and I think the thing, like big fears of, I don't know, this isn't the biggest fear, but going through the Couch to Marathon plan, trying to figure out how to fit all those workouts and all the work that has to be done with that. That's a pretty big obstacle to overcome to get there, right? But I don't think those are the things that derail us often. I think the things that often derail us are the little things. Like the things like an example might be the person who they want to do a track workout, but they won't go to the local track because they're afraid they're going to run into a real runner there. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get on that track where there's a real runner, and I don't want to have people look down on me. That is the kind of fear that I think really, really hurts us. Mm-hmm. We're afraid of how we're going to look. How's it going to look if I go and I witness to somebody? You know, what's going to happen? What if they ridicule me? What if I say, hey, do you know Jesus? And they say, who are you? I don't know what they say, but you know, they ridicule you. How are we going to feel? Well, we fear that. Mm-hmm. And I think it's those smaller fears that are the most damaging fears.
Yeah. Good word, Dean.
Of course, you know, one of the things about fear is good for a couple of reasons. Fear protects us, right? It's good.
They call that primal fear.
Yeah. It's good that when you go to the Grand Canyon, it's good that you don't want to walk too close to the edge. You know, that's a good fear.
Yeah, because, you know, God is not the author of fear. But I think fear is one of those words that we use. You got to put that again in context.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Fear, maybe fear is the wrong word. I did a little digging on this here a while back about the word fear, and in the Hebrew, there's a lot of different words that we group all together for the word fear.
Yeah.
You know, fear, there's reverent fear, which is the fear of God that we're supposed to have. We're reverent. It's kind of the same fear of the Grand Canyon. It's majestic. It's awe-inspiring. But if you walk up and walk off the edge, you better respect it.
It's a respectful fear.
Yeah. And then there's, you know, scared. Scared is the one I think probably better suits what we're talking about nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
We just get scared of things. Mm-hmm. Fear, I think in today's society is probably the good fear. We fear, things that we should, a lion. You know, you should fear is almost associated with the word respect.
Yeah.
And scared kind of goes more along with what I think Scripture talks about, where we're just scared to do anything. God calls us to do this, and we're scared.
Yeah.
We fear God, but we're scared to do what God says.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's kind of confusing when you really start diving into that word.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Philippians 4:11, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. Another thing that's foreign to us these days, right? Mm-hmm. This whole idea of being happy with where we are. I saw a video recently from this guy who was saying, you know, as advanced as civilization is, and as much as we can do these days with technology and other things, we shouldn't have to work anymore. I thought, first of all, How does anything get done if no work is done?
Where did you hear this?
It's just one of those crazy, it was a TikTok video from somebody and I heard it through somebody else, but the whole idea, the thing about it is the work and the battle, the hills that you climb in doing work is valuable, right? It's not just,
it's dignity. There's dignity in work and doing hard things. But I mean, that's why I say tell your kids to do hard things because there's dignity in that.
Yeah. So that work provides contentment.
Sure.
Right? That's what it does. And I think the most important thing we need, before we can get to this point of what Paul is talking about though, is that we have to understand, and if you're going to get to that point of contentment for us, we have to understand God's will for our life. Because that needs to be where your contentment comes from, is knowing that you're on that path. And part of that is, in this case it's work, but whatever that thing is that you have to do.
Right.
Question, are you satisfied with where you are physically and spiritually? Do you simply point to past hills and think you have run your race and can coast from here? Or are there hills God still wants you to climb so you can still learn and grow?
Every time I think I can coast, I'm at the foot of another hill.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had those thoughts before, like, I've made it. We can just kind of coast from here. Nope. But that's good. I mean, that's kind of God keeping us on our toes. Are you satisfied where you are physically? I've really struggled with this. Again, I feel like my physical running has been a roller coaster the past few years. I am back to walking now. It seems like that 6 mile mark, for whatever reason, just God gets me back to walking when I get to that point. And I've struggled with that from time to time. We've talked about this on this podcast before. And I think so many times we struggle with where God has us.
Yeah.
And it's because it's at the foot of another hill and we think, I'm just not going to be able to overcome this. But maybe that's where God is working in your life. And we need to get out of our own way sometimes, or we need to get out of God's way in using us. But so many times we're trying to fix things and strategize and do things. Well, we just need to sit and be still and listen. And God can do things right where you're at. I mean, had I not started walking, 2 years ago, we wouldn't have the walking program now.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of sitting in it right now.
Yeah.
Physically, I walk every day now. I'm doing 0 running right now. And sometimes I let pride creep in. And it's the fear of what others might think. And that is the fear that God talks about.
Yeah.
There's no place for that. That is not from Him. And,
Yeah, I think that, God, of course, God's plans for us change over time.
Sure.
So as I get older, I think back and I'm not as fast as I once was. Mm-hmm. From a physical standpoint, I'm not as strong as I once was, and I'm not going to be able to do the things that I once could do physically. Mm-hmm. But I can do things spiritually way better than I could do 20 or 30 years ago, right? Sure. So, it's just a different path. He gets you on this path, and that path changes as you go. It's like going on a trail run, and, there's some parts that are under the trees, and then there's some places, maybe you cross fields or whatever, but it's all part of the journey. And, we just have to learn to get on His path. Question. Do you fear there is a hill or trial that God cannot get you through? Is there a hill of ministry that God wants you to climb that you are too afraid to try?
I think the answer to the first question is no, but there is a fear that I will derail that process.
Yeah.
I have full confidence that God can get me through anything, but too many times I get in my own way. And I feel like that is better now than it used to be. I mean, we're going through some pretty cool things in this ministry that we'll be announcing next week. That if I would have allowed it to be terrifying, would have been terrifying.
Yeah.
Because none of us like change. But I think God has been preparing me for 13 years. I think He's prepared us all, because during this whole process, I've been asking, everybody got peace about this? Everybody got peace about this? And I think that would not have been my default 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yes, the answer to the question is absolutely. God can get you through whatever hill, but you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah. And I can't help but think about the difference in the way we look at hills. So when we get to the bottom of the hill, what do? Oh, yeah. We're doing hill repeats, and we're on the 7th hill repeat. We're jogging down to the bottom of the hill. We make that turn. We start back up. We're like, another hill.
Temporary amnesia.
Yeah.
As soon as we get to the bottom, we forget what it felt like on top.
Yeah. Yeah. But God loves to watch us do those hill repeats, because He loves to watch us make progress and do good things. And those hill repeats, they don't come in the form of necessarily running, but all those things we go through in life that are tough hills. When we climb that hill and we get to the top, you can't help but think God's got a smile on His face watching us do that. And that's a good thing, right?
And in the realm of God, there many times they're tests, and sometimes you fail.
Yeah.
Sometimes you fail, and that's where God's grace comes in. And God doesn't want you to turn around, take your ball, and go home because you failed. He wants you to analyze that, forget about it, take it to Him, and then come back tomorrow to do that workout again.
Yeah.
But just like with a workout, we fail and we take our ball and we go home.
Yeah.
To never do that again.
Yeah.
That's not what God wants us to do.
Yeah.
He wants us to. Good can come out of failure. Good often does come out of failure if we look at it with the right perspective. And it's so hard sometimes. We just want to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
But God's saying, don't do that.
Yep.
Trust me.
Good point. Last question. No matter if you're in a valley, climbing uphill, or on a mountaintop, have you learned to trust God and enjoy the journey and the view? I think now more than ever, I think you and I are both on that same page, where we're better at that than we've ever been in the past, and hopefully going to get even better at it.
Still got a long way to go, though.
We do.
We're not coasting yet.
No. I can't help but think about that, Mount Sinai, how hard that whole climb is. We run up that hill and it's hard, and you got one little view along the way that you see on your way up, and it comes late where you're really hurting. And then you get to the top and it's amazing, the view up there. Even though our lungs feel like they're going to explode on the way, just getting up there is it's a big deal. And so we have to get to the point where we not only enjoy the view when we get there, but envision that view on the way, right? I think that's where we were talking earlier, that when you get to hills, we forget how satisfying it is to accomplish something sometimes. And that's why we don't want to start it.
Well, and a lot of times we make the mistake of not taking inventory when we get to the top.
Yeah.
We get to the top and like, we're in a hurry. We got to get right back down. And you never stop and look around.
That's true.
And so you never get that picture, the physical picture of that hilltop of the hill you just climbed running, or that metaphorical picture of, God, this is what you've done. We get so busy that we don't even take inventory of that. So we don't have a benchmark to look back at because we didn't stop long enough to look around and thank God. And
yeah. Well, the point about this hills and this is the best, as close a metaphor for life as anything you can look at in running. is hills. Mm-hmm. And the idea that hills make us stronger runners. There's no question about that. And the hills of life and overcoming the tough things and getting to the top of whatever that thing is some of the most valuable things we'll ever do in life. Mm-hmm. When we look back on our lives, we don't look back on the things that went smoothly. We look back at the things that were hard, right? Those are the things we're most proud of.
Absolutely.
And so when you get to that hill, realize that's a great moment, not a bad one. Would you like to experience the Bible in a different way than you've ever done before? Well, you can join me, Coach Dean, as I read through the Bible every day for a full year. We go through the hard-to-pronounce names and all. In addition, I share running and walking tips and some inspirational quotes along the way. Get your daily dose of the Bible from a runner's perspective in the Run for God Run Club Walk Through the Bible. You must be a member of the Run for God Run Club to get access, so if you're not a member, join today. If you are a member, just find a Walk Through the Bible under the Nationwide Challenge tab. We're back. So yesterday I go to the high school track to do a run on the track, and I get there and I start warming up. I realize they're digging up the middle in where the football field is, because they're going to install some turf and they're having to put drainage and stuff in there. And it's I love construction stuff, but I looked and I saw the track was basically okay, and I thought, great, I can run. I can get on the track and run. And then as I'm warming up, I start running and I look up and I realize there's a line of these big pallets across the track that are about 4 inches tall, that are all the way across the track, and you don't have any choice but to run over those pallets. And for a minute there, I got to thinking, should I just not do my workout? And then I thought, no, that's just going to make it more fun, right?
It's like hay bales on a cross country
course. That's right. What the heck? Why not? I'm surprised they haven't locked the gate and don't allow anybody in. I'm surprised that they allow folks to even get out there on the track with all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
I guess if there wasn't anybody there when I was there. So sure. I'm assuming if the workers were there, they probably don't want you there, with machinery and stuff.
I don't know. I probably don't care.
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah.
Well, Atlanta's not far from here. And there is some interesting news down there. The Peachtree Road Race, just had the Peachtree Road Race. Do you know the Peachtree didn't fill up this year?
I didn't. And you said this year again. Is it not filled up?
Well, it hasn't filled up since 2020.
Oh, okay.
Well, I didn't have it in 2020. But yeah, it's still not filling up because people just haven't come back to racing. And
we've talked about that a lot, with racing numbers are down, and you kind of wonder what's going on. I think part of it is there are so many races now.
Yeah.
At one time, the Peachtree Road Race, at least around here, was about the only race on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a handful within driving distance of here. So I know if you're like me, somebody that hates crowds, if it's the Peachtree Road Race or some local small town race, I'm going there every time.
I'm not a big fan of the big crowds either.
But race numbers at large are down.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there's many more races than there used to be also.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, there's one man who has run every single Peachtree since it started in 1973, 53 years in a row. He's 92 now, and this was his last Peachtree Road Race. His name is Bill Thorne. He said, it's time to start a new era. And I guess that doesn't include him. So, on the Peachtree Road Race course. So he was feeling a lot of pressure every year to try to complete it. At 92 years old, it gets pretty tough. I imagine. Peachtree's got some hills in it that are not easy.
And it's hot.
Yeah. And it's hot. So he figured the best way to get the pressure off is not to get on the starting line. And so, but congratulations.
But he did complete it this year.
But he did complete it this year.
Wow,
so congratulations to him. Yeah, yeah. And they had some big names at Peachtree this year too, which was really cool. And I remember getting a chance. I was fortunate enough to be an invited runner at Peachtree, for a few years there, in my 40s. And, it was cool to line up right behind those guys and get to go into the same areas they warm up and warm up with them and that kind of thing. That was always a lot of fun. You realize that it's not what you think. The picture of who those guys are changes a lot when you get a chance to warm up with them.
Yeah.
You realize, I'm really focused on my warm up. They look like they're just out, just chit chatting, not running hard, they do a couple of strides. They get on the line and boom, they're off at 420 pace. It's just crazy to watch them. But anyway, there were 2 crazy finishes this year. The men's race finished, it was just like I think there were 3 guys that were just shoulder to shoulder all the way down that last straightaway, which had to be fun to watch. But on the ladies' side, it was the craziest thing. The leader of the race, apparently, you know how when you got like a lead motorcycle, the motorcycle just before the finish line, they peel off and they turn. Well, when the motorcycle peeled off and turned, she followed the motorcycle. And she realized it, but it was too late, and she wound up finishing 3rd or 4th in the race.
Really?
Yes, because she followed the motorcycle. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
At a big race like the Peachtree Road Race. But it was clear because you could see from where they were, you could see the finish line ahead of them. So it wasn't like she couldn't tell where the finish line was. It wasn't confusing.
Is there a video of that? I'd like to see that.
I don't know if there is. I'll bet there is. I hadn't thought about it, but very, very interesting. So even the biggest races in the world,
people go the wrong way.
Crazy stuff happens. Yeah. And then this is maybe the biggest news of all coming out of Atlanta. The Atlanta Track Club is planning to build a $100 million indoor facility in Atlanta.
I knew the Atlanta Track Club was a big track club, but to shell out $100 million for an indoor facility, that's a big track club.
I'm sure they're doing a lot of fundraising on this. But, famously, Georgia Tech is in Atlanta. Georgia is in Athens, not too far out of Atlanta. And there are no indoor tracks in the state of Georgia.
Anybody around here has to go to somewhere in lower Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama or Tennessee, or there's tracks in.
So Tennessee has an indoor track?
Yeah, Tennessee. There's 2 or 3 in Tennessee. University of Tennessee has one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clemson has one just across the line there in South Carolina, and then Birmingham has one in Alabama.
Right.
So everybody around us has all these indoor facilities except the state of Georgia. So this will be something that will be good for the state of Georgia. And I imagine with Atlanta being as friendly as Atlanta is to this kind of thing, there'll be some big track events coming to Atlanta before long, I would say. So, and I'm sure the Atlanta Track Club does a really good job at stuff, and I'll bet you it's going to be a nice facility.
First class.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we'll get some USA championships there or something. All right, it's a time for Dean's Thoughts, and that's a time when I share something that I've written about the intersection between running and faith. Well, most people hate the heat, especially when it comes to running, but I've really learned to cope with it, even if it does get a little bit harder every year. This one's called Contrasting Heat. I've always said heat is just mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter. While it is most assuredly harder to run when it is 85 than when it is 70, how you think about it has a huge impact on the feeling of your run. Today, the real field temperature was 108 when I started and 113 when I finished. Now, I don't know exactly how they arrive at that real field temperature, but it certainly felt extra warm today. Nevertheless, I was able to cover 10 miles, albeit a little slower than my average run. What made this run interesting was that I decided before I went out to run that I was going to repeatedly tell myself the temperature didn't matter. Of course, it didn't help that there were reminders along the way, like the overpacked Red Clay Resort swimming hole where hundreds of people were basking in the coolness of a spring-fed acre-sized pond, or the conspicuous observation that there was no one outside in their yards, or maybe most especially the fact that I left a puddle anywhere I stopped for more than 2 seconds from the gallons of sweat that was pouring from my body when I stopped to grab a drink of water at Red Clay State Park. I just kept telling myself, sure, it's warm, but it's no big deal. And you know what? It wasn't really a big deal. Uncomfortable? Yes. But I know that I have an upcoming race that is going to be run during the dog days of summer. Enduring an hour and a half of heat would only increase my chances of success. As far as I was concerned, it was a win-win. I get some practice for something I needed, and, well, I didn't have to worry about being cold while doing it. Seriously, the mind over matter thing works. Now let me caution everyone. You do have to be careful in the heat. Everyone's limit is different, and you can't go over the line. I've seen heat stroke, and it is not a good thing. Take precautions and be smart. But my point is, don't give up before you even start. When I got through with the run, I walked around to the back of my house before going inside so that I could jump straight into the swimming pool. It's a nice reward for braving the heat. I jumped off the diving board and swam to the shallow end of the pool, and something struck me. The incredible contrast of heat versus the coolness of the pool. I was instantly satiated by the cool water. It's a little like what happens to us when we accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior, isn't it? One moment we're struggling with life, and the next we can put it all in context, and there's a relief that overwhelms the struggle. Oh, life doesn't become easy. We still have to swim, but we can feel the coolness of our loving God all around us as we do. If you want to get even more dramatic, albeit brutally honest, think about the contrast of heaven and hell. I can't help but think about how oppressive the heat felt today. But it is nothing compared to eternal separation from God, coupled with a suffering none of us can fathom. And the pool felt awfully good, but it is nothing compared to an eternity of worshiping God. I've always thought the Bible does a relatively poor job of describing heaven. First, because the words and circumstances of the day in which the Bible was written doesn't translate all that well to today's high-tech world. But also because heaven is indescribable. I give the biblical authors credit for trying, but I can't help but think that no one on earth can possibly envision how incredible heaven will be. Running in the heat? It's temporary. Heaven is for eternity. I can't wait to see it.
Good job, Dean. So when was this?
This was just this past week.
Last week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week. Well, really it was crazy hot, wasn't it? Yeah.
You know, I've tried that once. Have I told the story on here?
I don't know.
About I wanted to see what my sweat loss was. I was kind of geeking. This is back in my Ironman days, and I wanted to try to geek out on sweat loss and sweat rate. So I left here. It's 1.5 miles out to. No, it's 3. It was 3 miles to Varnell School. And I was going to do a 6-mile run there and back. I weighed myself before I started. I was going to weigh myself when I got back. It was basically right at 100 degrees one afternoon. And I got out there, and I had to stop at a guy's house. I mean, I was seeing dots, black marks. You know, I was blacking out, basically.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, this is a great story, but you got to be careful. Don't think just because Dean can do it, you can do it. Pace yourself. Do a little at a time. Work up to that, because you can't acclimate to it.
Yes.
But don't, if you live in Michigan, don't go to Florida on a vacation and jump out in the 100-degree heat and think you're going to be all right. It probably won't end well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember a time when I was young. I was in high school at the time, and I went out for a 5-mile run one day. And the last thing that I remember was I was at the 1-mile mark of this run. And I don't know what happened that day, but all I know is the next thing that I remember was that I woke up on my bedroom floor. I don't know that I ran that 5 miles or I didn't. I have no idea what happened in between. It was the weirdest thing I've ever been through in my life.
A Garmin would have been handy back in the days.
It would have,
See.
I've never thought about that before.
Yeah.
But it would have been. Man. Well, last week I was running with one of the high school kids. You know the one. Yeah. Mentally tough kid, not only a military mentality. He talks about it every time we run, about his military and how he's going into the Army. But he really struggles in the heat.
Yeah.
And so I was struggling so much more than he was, but he didn't know it because I wasn't going to say it. But in his mind, he just couldn't keep up. And we had slowed down to a point where I didn't want to slow down anymore. And finally, he just kind of gave up and kind of fell way behind. He kind of just broke, and he slowed down, and he saw Coley coming by, and he thought, I'll run with Coley. And afterwards, guess what? He was mad at himself for slowing down and giving up. And that's what we do a lot of times after the fact, is after things. And this isn't just heat. It's anything that gets hard. After a workout, we get mad at ourselves afterwards for giving up.
When we coast.
That's right. Yeah. It's, Again, the main point of the story is not to go run in the heat. It's just not to give up before you get started.
Sure.
So many of us, we just give up before we start. We think, well, this is too hard, and we just don't start it. And I tell people this. I tell people that my mother told me I could do anything, and I believed her. And, it's made me believe that I can do almost anything. And that's great, but that's how God is with us, right? God knows that with us and then with Him, we can accomplish so much. Paul said he can be all things to all people. He believed God, and we should all believe Him.
Good word, Dean.
While you are working hard to keep your body in shape physically, the music you listen to while you run can help keep you in shape spiritually. We have partnered with J Radio to put together a group of running playlists by Mitchell, Lane, Holly, me, and others that you hear on the Run Club podcast. Plus, you can listen to a playlist put together by members of Run Club just like you. Check out the whole station of Run for God playlists now at jradio.com and in the J Radio app.
All right, every week I share a reason why running or walking is so awesome, and you're giggling over there probably.
Only a runner would understand.
That's exactly right.
If you went and said this to somebody that doesn't run, they would look at you like you have three heads.
They probably would.
Or even walkers experience it too.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, go ahead.
It's the post-run dry T-shirt, right? Again, you do have to be a runner to understand it. I don't know that anything feels better than getting through with a run.
You're right.
And your shirt is just dripping wet.
I've just never heard it. I've never seen it put in writing like that. Like, who would think to say that? But Dean would.
Yeah. Your shirt is sticking to you. It's heavy. And you take that shirt off, you dry off with a towel, and you put on a nice, fresh, dry, clean
That's
T-shirt.
A word picture.
Right there. Gosh, it feels so good. Yeah. And you can't do that if you don't get out there and run.
Right.
So it's one of the greatest things about running. Yep. Of course, I always carry extra everything. No matter what, if I go run somewhere, I've always got an extra T-shirt. I've got an extra towel. I've got extra water. I've got extra everything in my truck. It's like sometimes the kids forget their water. I'm like, I got you covered. Well, did you hear about this? Joshua Cheptegei is going to run the marathon. Joshua Cheptegei is the 5K, 10K track world record holder.
Sure.
And he's never run a marathon before. And he's going to run the Valencia Marathon. Valencia is quickly becoming one of the best marathons in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it considered fast?
Yes. Crazy fast. That's where the women's world record. No.
Oh, really?
Did she set the world record there? It's fast. It's crazy fast.
So how do you think he'll do?
I don't know. That's been a big topic of debate in running circles right now because, there's a lot of people who think they're looking at him shooting for the world record. And I think that's a little overkill. I can't imagine him setting the world record on his first marathon attempt.
The only reason I think it could be a possibility, and it's kind of going back to what we've seen in triathlon. Of course, running is a little bit different because running has been around much longer and people have been specializing for much longer. But with the sport of triathlon, still, Ben Canute just broke the American record for Ironman. You're seeing in triathlon, you're seeing the young guys who came up through the sport from, the junior ranks to the sprints, to the Olympic distance. They learned how to get really, 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 really fast.
Yeah.
And now they're adding distance to it, and they're shattering records right and left. And in the past, with the marathon, we've never really seen people make that transition, have we? From
We have.
But to be that level of Cheptegei,
well,
to be the best in the world.
Mo Farah moved to the marathon just a few years ago, for the first time, and he was double Olympic champion, 5K, 10K, and then he moved to the marathon and he didn't do very well. I mean, he did well.
He did well.
He ran 2:05, but
right.
he didn't, he wasn't anywhere near the world record.
I don't know. I think there's definitely the possibility.
Yeah.
You can't count it out.
Well, because
of his pedigree. I mean,
you're right. And we just had the female version of Joshua Cheptegei basically run her first marathon recently, and she knocked out of the park, and she didn't set a world record. She was only a couple minutes off. So, I could picture Joshua Cheptegei running 2:03. I can't imagine him running the world record, but I could imagine him running 2:03 and running really, really well. It'll be interesting.
It'll be fun to watch.
It will be fun to watch. Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, if you're a track fan, the USA Championships, they start tonight. I love this time of year.
Oh, I've got my DVR set.
I bet you do.
No, I really don't.
I think one of the interesting things about USA Track and Field right now are the personalities, because you got the Noah Lyles and the Sha'Carri Richardsons who are real flamboyant. They're in your face. Some people like them. Some people don't like them, and it's fine, whatever. And then you got the quiet, the Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, who's just, you don't hardly ever hear from her. She just gets out there and she hammers everybody on the track. And Sydney is not going to run the hurdles at USA's this year.
That's her specialty, isn't it?
Well, since she's the world champion, she gets a bye to the World Championships.
So she doesn't have to.
So she doesn't have to run the USA's. So she's going to run the Open 400 instead, which
she's never really done, has she?
No, she did. She ran it earlier this year.
Okay.
But she did it in college a little bit, but she hasn't done it in a long time.
Because we've said, when was it one of the hurdle races she ran, had that been an Open 400, she would have still been like third or fourth or something like that.
Yeah. Fifth or sixth. She'd been up there. She'd have been in the final. She could have made the final.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see how she does.
Yeah.
So that's a fascinating byline of this. I think Mo also, she's our 800 world champion. Mm-hmm. She's not running the 800 because she doesn't have to. She's going to run the 1500 instead. Now, she's never run a good 1500. So it's going to be fascinating to see how she can, a little bit like Joshua Cheptegei moving up to the marathon. It's going to be interesting to see how she does in the 1500. A lot of people don't expect her to run in the final. They don't think she's going to make it. So
see, the problem with the USA Championships, and we talk about this every year, there's just one little conflict. The Tour de France.
Yeah.
That's my allegiance is there. So yeah, maybe I'll catch the
replays on the tour. Yeah.
I'll catch the replays on the championships. Yeah.
Well, and then you got another one that's a world champ. Noah Lyles won the world championship in the 200. So he's running the 100. And then,
so this is common. They pick a different distance if they're the world champion in the primary distance.
It's common since they made the new rule.
That's a new rule.
This is a fairly new rule.
Okay.
Yeah. It used to be that they had to run, in order to make the team, they had to run that event.
Well, that's pretty cool that it gives them the freedom to kind of try something different.
Yeah.
Because you never know what might happen. I mean, Sydney might just kill the force. She might be.
I can't imagine she's not going to be good at it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then, because there's people talking about world records and stuff for her, and I'm like, let's not get carried away. Let's, don't get the expectations too high.
Yeah.
So, and then of course you got the distance races, the 800, the 1500, the 5K, the 10K, all of those races. For the United States right now, there's a pack, especially on the men's side. There's a pack of guys. There's 4 or 5 guys that really have a good chance for those 3 spots to get to world championships. So they're going to be really, really fascinating races to watch.
Is Cheptegei hanging up the middle distance stuff?
No, he said he's going to go through the Olympics next year for the track.
Makes sense.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this USA Championships about as much as I've looked toward any or been excited for any in recent memory. And then, of course, the World Championships are in August. That's the whole idea behind USA's having them in July, so that
and they're where this year?
We can pick the team. Where the World Championships?
Yeah.
For the, I can't remember where the World Championships are now. I don't remember. The USA's are in Eugene, Oregon. And one of the most interesting stories about USA's this year is there is a sprinter. Her name is Mia. I'm not sure how to say her name. Brahe Peterson. This girl she signed an NIA deal. That's name, image, likeness deal with Nike where she gets paid. And she's a high schooler and she's a sprinter. And so
they can do that in high school. I didn't know that extended on down to high school.
I did not either. This is a recent development. And the interesting thing about her, she's got the second fastest high school 200 meter in history. The only person who's faster than her is Allison Felix. That's a pretty famous track name. But to look at her, she does not look like a runner at all. I mean, not just, she doesn't look like a sprinter. She doesn't look like a runner at all. She looks more like a volleyball player. I mean, she's not that tall. I don't know how tall she is actually, but she's just kind of a little bit bigger boned, a little bit. She just doesn't look like a
doesn't have the frame of your typical.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be fascinating to watch how she does over the years.
Yeah.
Cause I like seeing somebody who's not the typical person.
They don't fit the mold.
That does well. Yeah. So keep an eye on that Mia Peterson girl. And of course, I have a race pretty soon too. I'm going to run the 5K, and then I'm going to team up with 3 other 55 to 59 year olds to try to set the American record for the outdoor 4x800 meters.
Because you got it for the indoor.
Yes, we set it.
Is it the same guys you're meeting up with?
One of them is the same. 2 of them are the same, and then one guy's a different guy. So that'll be fun to try to do that. As I said, I haven't felt that great about my running lately, so I hope I don't let them down.
Yeah.
But, if we run as fast as we did indoors, we'll set the record. So.
Hey, and just so everybody knows, I want to give a shout out for the Hawkins, fundraiser 10K. So if you don't know anything about that, completely, low key, it's a 10K that we do down in Cartersville, Georgia, where Angie and Patrick Hawkins live. Great race. It's a lot of fun. Very low key. It's about as low key as you can get.
Yep.
But it's also, you can do it virtually. It's kind of a fundraiser for Run for God. So go to runforgod.com, check that out. Go to events tab, drop down, and you'll see the Hawkins, fundraiser 10K. But yeah, there's a lot of people signing up for that right now. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be. Well, all right. Let me leave you with this trivia question for next week. What is the highest grossing film about running of all time? You have any idea? Do you think you know?
I actually looked it up.
Did you?
When I was reading your notes.
Did it surprise you, or was
I couldn't figure it out?
Oh, really?
I couldn't figure it out.
All right. Yeah,
so you're going to have, it wasn't a quick Google search. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
You're going to have to dig.
You do have to dig.
I did a quick search and couldn't figure it out.
That's right. Yep. So if you know the answer to that, you can send the answer to dean@runforgod.com. And if you're the first person to answer, then you will win $20 off in the Run for God store.
So before you get to the motivational thought of the week, I want to invite everybody back next week. You've heard us on here talking about some things going on. We mentioned it in this podcast. We've mentioned it a few times in the past few weeks. We've got a big announcement next week. So tune into this podcast next week, and we're going to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
It's some pretty cool things going on, and we're all excited, and I think you're going to be surprised.
Absolutely. It's going to be fantastic. All right. I'm going to leave you with this motivational thought of the week. Actually, here's what I did. I had a motivational thought of the week. I had a quote. And then I kind of wrote my response to that quote, and I liked my response better. So I'm just
hijacked it.
So I hijacked it. Yeah, I hijacked it. And it's just this is just Dean's quote. It is
hijacked from somebody else.
No. This isn't the quote. This isn't I took the quote out completely. It's not here. This is just what I wrote in response to. Yes, inspired by. That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
And it is, some days just getting out there is the victory. Enjoy those days, not because they feel good, but because they don't.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Wow. So, we're again, come back next week, but We are 173 episodes in. If you'd have told me we were going to record 173 podcasts, I would have said, that's crazy. That's a crazy thought.
Yeah.
And here we are.
It seems like yesterday we were on episode 2A, which was the coronavirus edition.
That's true. And I'll tell you this, I went through, I don't know if you've gone through and read the reviews, but if you're out there and you enjoy this podcast, write a review on that podcast. I can't tell you how much that lifted me up reading the reviews that are out there. There's not a ton of them out there, but the ones that are out there, they're so well done, and they make us feel really good. But also, those positive reviews also help other people find.
So were there any that said y'all are just terrible, you need to quit doing what you're doing?
Not a single one.
Okay. Because I know some people probably think it, but just don't worry about leaving other people.
That's
just
right.
Change the channel.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Go to a different podcast.
But for everybody else, thank you. Yes. Thank you for those reviews. And like Dean said, share the podcast. Rate the podcast. Give us a 5-star review because it does help. You know, we were talking the other day, we're kind of kicking the tires of 100,000 downloads now. We're quickly getting to that point, and it's because people are interacting. And the successful interaction of a podcast breeds more success. And
that's right.
We know that this podcast is so much more than running. And we want to share that same hope with other people who don't know about us. So share us, give us a comment, give us a review. Do all those things.
That's right. And until next week, may God bless every step of every run and or walk. Go out there and shine your light.
Good job, Dean.
For more information about the Run for God ministry, go to runforgod.com. If you have questions about your salvation, click on the Peace with God tab. There's nothing more important. Thanks for joining us today.